peace be with you. Before we speak of cooking, of special ingredients, or of techniques, I want to begin with the soul of our meal. I want you to look at this with me. What do you see? Your mind might say, well, Kai, that's just rice. It's a carbohydrate. And you would be right, on one level. But our modern way of seeing has taught us to categorize everything, to break it down into its smallest parts, calories, grams, nutrients. And in doing so, I fear we have forgotten how to see the whole. We've forgotten how to see the life force, the essence of what we are inviting into our bodies. Have you ever truly considered that every single grain in this bowl is a seed? It is a tiny, dormant packet of life, holding the memory and the energy of the sun that warmed it, the water that quenched it, and the rich soil that gave it form. The very first step in transforming your health and your relationship with food doesn't happen in the kitchen. It happens right here, in the quiet moment of choosing. Think about the rice that most of us have grown up with, that pure, pearly white rice. It's beautiful in its uniformity, isn't it? But to achieve that uniformity, its outer layers, the bran and the germ, have been polished away. It's a process of stripping down, of removal. This isn't so different from what we often do. In our own lives, we polish our lives to look smooth, fast, and convenient. We want the quick answer, the easy path, the frictionless experience. But in that polishing, we can strip away the texture, the substance, and the deeper nourishment that comes from embracing the whole of an experience. The bran and the germ of the rice contain the fiber, the B vitamins, the minerals, the essential fats. They are the keepers of its wholeness and its strength. When we remove them, we are left with a ghost of the grain, a simple starch that can flood our system with sugar, unbuffered by the fiber and nutrients that nature intended to accompany it. I remember a woman from our community, a wonderful soul, named Eleanor. She was in her late 60s and felt perpetually untethered. She told me, Kai, I feel like a kite whose string has been cut. I'm just floating. My head is foggy and my energy crashes so hard after I eat. She was eating what she thought was a simple, clean diet, mostly vegetables with a side of fluffy white rice. I didn't give her a complicated plan. I simply asked if she would be willing to try an experiment to switch her white rice for brown rice. She was skeptical. Really? How can a different type of rice possibly help my head feel less foggy? I asked her to trust the wisdom of the earth. The first time she went to cook it, she was almost annoyed. It took nearly an hour to cook, she told me later. But as the nutty, wholesome aroma filled her kitchen, something shifted. That longer cooking time forced her to slow down. It became a small ritual in her day, a pocket of patience. She began to notice the grain itself, its texture, its heartiness. About a month later, she came to me, and her eyes were different. They were clear and bright. She said, Kai, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like my feet are on the ground again. The world doesn't feel like it's rushing past me anymore. I feel solid. She felt grounded. By choosing a food that was whole, her body began to feel whole again. The grounding energy of the whole grain had helped her tether her own kite. I know what you might be thinking. Brown rice is chewier. It takes longer. But I invite you to reframe those thoughts. The longer cooking time is an invitation to bring a small measure of patience back into your life. The chewiness is an invitation to slow down and eat more mindfully, to actually engage with your food. If the switch feels too drastic, be gentle with yourself. Perhaps start by mixing 1 part brown rice with 3 parts white rice. Let your body and your palate get accustomed to it. Then, when you are ready, you can change the ratio. This is where we begin. We begin by choosing wholeness. We begin by honoring the breath of the earth that is captured in this tiny, perfect grain. The question is not just what's for dinner, but what quality of energy am I choosing to build my life with today? Asterisk, asterisk, we have chosen our grain with intention, honoring its wholeness. Now, we must turn our attention to the element that will coax it from its slumber. What if I told you that one of the most powerful ingredients for managing your health isn't found in your spice rack or your pantry, but flows right out of your faucet? And what if our collective indifference to this ingredient is a source of a quiet, constant burden on our bodies? We are so focused on the food itself, the organic vegetable, the whole grain, that we often forget the single most vital component in its preparation: water. To most, water is just water. It's a utility. It's the clear liquid we use to boil, to rinse, to steam, and we give it almost no thought at all. But I invite you to see it differently. Imagine you have a cherished plant in your home, perhaps an orchid passed down from your mother, or a rose bush you've tended for years. When it's time to water it, you do so with care. You wouldn't scoop up cloudy, stagnant water to pour on its roots, would you? You would give it the cleanest water you could, because you know the plant will draw that water into its very cells. The water becomes the plant. Why, then, do we treat the sacred garden within our own bodies with any less reverence? Ancient traditions understood that not all water is the same. Water from a moving, natural spring was considered living water, full of vitality or prana. Stagnant water was seen as dead, having lost its energy. In our modern world, most of our water has become burdened. It sits in reservoirs and travels miles through pipes, being treated with chemicals like chlorine to keep it safe from bacteria. I am deeply grateful for the public health miracle that this safety provides. But we must also acknowledge that these are harsh, volatile substances. Chlorine, for example, is a powerful disinfectant designed to kill living organisms. When we drink it or cook with it, we are asking the incredibly delicate ecosystem of our gut, that inner garden of trillions of helpful bacteria, to deal with a constant, low-level dose of a substance designed to kill life. Is it any wonder so many of us struggle with digestive issues and inflammation? I once shared these thoughts with a man named David, a retired engineer who attended a meditation circle here. He was a wonderful man, very practical, logical, and a firm believer in things he could measure and quantify. He suffered from stiff, aching joints in the morning and a constant feeling of puffiness in his hands and face. He said to me, "Kai, with all due respect, the parts per million of chemicals in our water are regulated. It's perfectly safe. This living water idea sounds like superstition to me." I didn't argue. I simply invited him to conduct an experiment for 3 weeks. I asked him to use a simple, inexpensive carbon filter pitcher for all the water he consumed, his drinking water, the water for his morning tea, and the water he used to cook his rice and soups. He agreed, mostly, I think, to humor me. The first week, nothing. The second week, he called me. "A strange thing happened," he said. "My morning tea tastes different. It tastes ... cleaner, brighter." That was the first clue. He was tasting the tea, not the chemicals. By the end of the 3rd week, he came to the circle and held up his hands. "Look," he said, turning them over. "The puffiness is better. It's not gone, but it's better. And the rumbling in my gut ... it's quieter. He had this look of dawning comprehension on his face. He later told me, "I spent my whole life building things with precise materials. I never stopped to think that my own body was a building, and I was using subpar materials every single day. I was trying to fix the structure without ever checking the quality of the cement. The change wasn't a miracle cure. It was simply the result of removing a constant low-level stressor. His body, freed from the burden of processing these extra chemicals, had more energy to devote to healing itself. This wisdom is accessible to everyone. You don't need a complex, expensive system. A simple pitcher filter is a profound first step. Even letting a pitcher of tap water sit on your counter for 24 hours can allow much of the chlorine to naturally evaporate. The goal is not perfection. It is intention. It is the conscious choice to lighten the load on your body. So, when you next fill your pot to make rice, take a moment. See that water not as a mere utility, but as a blessing you are about to receive. By purifying it, you are adding life. You are choosing to give your inner garden the very best, and from that simple act of kindness, only good things can grow. Asterisk. We have our whole grain, born from the earth. We have our pure water, ready to give life. Now, we must perform an act that feels almost like a rebellion in our modern, hurried world. An act that requires no effort, no struggle. We must simply do nothing. We must let the rice rest in the water. We must give it the gift of time. This act of patient waiting, this quiet collaboration between grain and water, is one of the most transformative steps in preparing our food. This is the Great Awakening. I know it can seem like an unnecessary, tedious step. We are taught that faster is better, but nature has its own rhythm, its own deep wisdom. To protect its precious life force, the grain is coated in a compound called phytic acid. I want you to think of this not as a flaw, but as a sign of nature's intelligence. Phytic acid is like the grain's own personal vault. It's a natural padlock that locks up the vital minerals within the magnesium your heart needs, the zinc your immune system craves, the calcium for your bones. This vault ensures that the seed doesn't sprout prematurely, and it protects its treasures from being stolen. The problem is, this vault is very effective. If we eat the rice without unlocking it first, the phytic acid goes through our system, holding tightly onto those minerals. Even more, it can act like a tiny thief in our gut, grabbing onto minerals from the other foods in our meal, from the broccoli, from the almonds, and carrying them away, preventing our bodies from absorbing them. This is often the hidden reason why we can eat a healthy meal, yet still feel unsatisfied, or worse, experience bloating, gas, and that heavy leaden feeling in the stomach. It's your body whispering to you, "I'm having trouble opening the vault." Soaking. The rice is the key that gently opens the lock. When we submerge the grain in water, we are simulating the coming of the spring rains. We are sending a clear message to the seed. It is safe now. It is time to awaken. It is time to share your gifts. The water begins to neutralize the phytic acid, and it also activates enzymes within the grain that start to break down the complex, hard-to-digest starches. The grain literally begins to come alive. It takes its first deep drink, it softens, it sighs, and it prepares to release its profound nourishment. I think of a dear woman named Maria. For years, mealtimes had become a source of anxiety for her. She loved to cook, but she had grown fearful. Of food, she described a tight, gassy, bloated feeling that would follow almost every meal, draining her of energy and joy. She felt the food was an invader, a rock in her stomach that her body had to fight. She had given up eating rice entirely. I suggested she try this ancient way, not as a rule, but as an experiment in self-kindness. The first day, she took a cup of brown rice in the morning, rinsed it, covered it with warm water, and left it on her counter. That small act, she later told me, was a shift in itself. It was an act of planning, of intention. It was a promise she made to herself for the meal to come. That evening, she rinsed the soaked rice, cooked it, and sat down to eat. Half expecting the usual discomfort, she called me the next day, and her voice was filled with a sense of wonder. "Kai," she said, "I ate the rice, and then I just forgot about it." I asked her what she meant. "The drama was gone," she explained. "The rock wasn't there. There was no fight. It felt like my body just welcomed it home." For her, the absence of the problem was the miracle. By unlocking the grain before she ate it, she allowed her body to receive it with ease and gratitude. The practice is simple. For heartier grains like brown or wild rice, a soak of 2 to 8 hours, or even overnight, is wonderful. For delicate white rice, even 30 minutes to an hour makes a beautiful difference. After it is soaked, you'll notice the water is a bit cloudy. Pour that water away. You are rinsing away the neutralized phytic acid. Give the rice one last fresh rinse, and it is ready. This is a practice, not a law. If you forget one day, it is okay, but if you can make it a rhythm, you will feel the difference. You are learning a profound lesson that sometimes the most powerful action is to create a safe, nourishing environment, and then simply allow life to unlock itself. Asterisk, asterisk, in our lives, we are all in a search for balance, are we not? We seek it between our work and our rest, between the moments of sound and the moments of silence, between our time with others and our time alone. Our bodies are no different. They are a magnificent, self-regulating symphony, constantly seeking equilibrium, or what we call health. What if I told you that a key to restoring balance to one of the most challenging areas, our blood sugar, could be found in this humble bottle? Here we have an ally, a surprising friend to our awakened rice, a simple, honest vinegar. Now, I can almost hear your thoughts from here. Vinegar in my rice. Kai, that sounds terribly strange. Won't it make my beautiful, fluffy rice taste sour? It's a fair question, but I invite you to stay with me for a moment. In many of the world's ancient healing traditions, there is a deep understanding that our health depends on experiencing a full spectrum of tastes. The 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent are like the different instruments in an orchestra. The sweet taste, which includes foods like rice and bread, is nourishing and builds the body. The sour taste, like this vinegar, awakens the appetite and stimulates digestion. The problem is that our modern diet has become a profoundly unbalanced symphony. The sweet and salty instruments are playing so loudly they drown everything else out. The sour, the bitter, the pungent, they have become just faint whispers in the background. By adding a small spoonful of vinegar to our cooking water, we are not making our rice sour. We are reintroducing a missing instrument. We are bringing a crucial voice back into the orchestra, allowing our bodies to experience a more complete harmony, which is essential for managing the sweet energy of the rice. And here is the truly beautiful part, where the ancient wisdom is affirmed by modern science. The sourness in vinegar comes from a compound called acetic acid. Imagine the starch in the rice is a large, excited crowd of people. all rushing towards a single gate to get into your bloodstream. Without a guide, the gate flies open and the entire crowd floods through at once. This is the blood sugar speaker moment of chaos that leaves you feeling tired and foggy afterward. Now, imagine the acetic acid from the vinegar is a calm, wise guide standing at that gate. The guide doesn't close the gate. It simply organizes the crowd into a single, orderly line, letting people through one by one at a steady, manageable pace. The energy enters your system as a gentle, sustained flow, not a chaotic flood. In fact, modern science has validated this ancient idea. Researchers at respected institutions like Johns Hopkins University have found that this simple addition can lower the glycemic impact of a rice meal by over 30%. I think of a gentleman I know named Jerry, a retired school teacher who was a man of deep habits. His doctor had told him his blood sugar was creeping up, a phrase that filled him with a quiet dread. He was afraid of having to give up the foods he loved, especially the rice his wife made. The idea of adding something to his diet rather than taking another thing away felt like a ray of hope. He was worried about the taste, though. "I can't mess with my wife's rice," he told me. I suggested he try an experiment. Just 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in the cooking water for the whole pot. He did it without telling her, and at dinner she didn't notice a thing. What he noticed, however, was on his glucose meter 2 hours later. The usual sharp spike was gone. His numbers were still elevated, but they were in a much gentler range. It was the first time in years he felt a sense of control, a sense of partnership with his body instead of being at war with it. The practice is this: for every 1 cup of uncooked rice, add about a tablespoon of a raw unpasteurized vinegar to the cooking water. Apple cider vinegar with the mother, that cloudy collection of beneficial bacteria's wonderful. As you are adding even more life to the mix, the sharp taste mellows in the heat, leaving behind only a subtle brightness that many find actually enhances the flavor of the grain. You are performing a simple, powerful act of alchemy, using the sour to balance the sweet, and in doing so, bringing your own body 1 step closer to its natural, harmonious state. If you walk through a forest, you will notice that a tall pine tree and a sprawling fern are not in competition. They are companions. The pine provides shade, and the fern helps keep the soil moist. Together, they create a thriving ecosystem. Our food can be the same. Our path to wellness is not always about finding a single, powerful superfood that will solve all our problems. Often, the deepest magic is found in synergy, the beautiful, quiet harmony created when to humble. Foods work together, each one amplifying the gifts of the other. Today, we will invite such a friend to join our rice. We will invite the humble oat now. This isn't about making a bowl of porridge. This is about a partnership. Most of us know that oats are good for us, but their true gift lies in a special kind of soluble fiber they contain called beta-glucan. I want you to imagine this fiber as a very fine, very soft, golden sponge. When you eat the oats along with your rice, this gentle sponge begins its work. As it travels through your body, it helps to soak up excess cholesterol, gently clearing the path for better circulation. But it does something else, something even more profound for our blood sugar. The beta-glucan dissolves in the water in your digestive system and forms a light, soothing gel. Think of it as wrapping the rice in a soft, protective blanket. This coating physically slows down the process of digestion. It creates a buffer that prevents the sugars from the rice from flooding into your bloodstream all at once. The energy from your meal is released not as a sudden jolt, but as a long, slow, gentle hum. This isn't just folk wisdom. It's an effect so powerful that the National Institutes of Health has studied it. Their research found that this simple combination can slow down the rate of sugar entering the bloodstream by a remarkable 43%, I think. Of a dear woman named Dorothy, a retired librarian who found her peace in the quiet order of things. Her health, however, had become chaotic. Her cholesterol and blood sugar numbers were creeping up, and her doctor had given her a long list of foods to avoid. She felt that her own body had become a book written in a language she could no longer understand, and it was deeply unsettling. For her, she was paralyzed, afraid to eat anything for fear of doing the wrong thing. The idea of another restriction was overwhelming, so instead, I suggested a simple act of addition. I asked if she would be willing to add just a single teaspoon of oats to her rice each day. That was all. It was one positive, gentle action she could take. She started the next morning. As she measured her cup of rice, she sprinkled in a small spoonful of oats. She told me later that it became her secret ritual of hope. She was no longer just making food. She was composing a harmony. 3 months later, her doctor was very pleased with her new lab results. But the real victory, she told me, was internal. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Kai, it's like I finally found a way to be a friend to my own body again. For so long, I was fighting it, restricting it. This felt like we were working together." She had rediscovered harmony. The wisdom here is in the balance, what some call the golden ratio. The goal is for the oats to be about 5% to 7% of the total grain. Let's make that simple. If you are cooking 1 cup of rice, which is about 150 grams, that means you only need to add 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of oats. It is such a small amount, yet its effect is so great. But we must respect this balance. Too much oatmeal can be heavy and cause indigestion for some. Harmony is about balance, not excess. And, of course, if you have any kidney concerns, it is always wise to speak with your doctor before making any changes to your diet. You are simply inviting 2 old friends, rice and oats, to work together to create a meal that is gentler, kinder, and more nourishing for your body. Asterisk, asterisk, let us now add a touch of the sun to our meal. We will invite a pinch of what has been called the golden spice, or the spice of life in parts of the world for thousands of years. This is turmeric. Its vibrant, golden color is no accident. It is the outward expression of its inner vitality. When we add this to our rice, we are doing more than simply adding color or a warm, earthy flavor. We are respectfully adding a profound medicine, a gift from the earth that holds the power to cool the hidden fires that may be burning within our bodies. Many of us live with a state of chronic low-grade inflammation. Think of it this way. When you get a splinter, the area around it becomes red, warm, and swollen. That is healthy, acute inflammation. It's your body's brilliant and powerful army rushing to the scene to protect and heal. But what happens when that healing process never fully completes? What happens when the fire is never completely put out? You are left with a low fire, endlessly smoldering in the background, deep within your joints, your arteries, and your very cells. This chronic hidden fire silently creates damage and disrupts your body's delicate communication systems. It is at the root of so many of our modern health struggles. This is especially true when it comes to managing blood sugar. The active ingredient in this golden spice is a powerful compound called curcumin. Curcumin is a fantastic antioxidant and anti-inflammatory agent, and it is particularly helpful because it can improve a condition known as insulin resistance. Let's use a simple picture. Imagine each of your cells is a tiny house that needs fuel sugar to stay warm and have energy. Insulin is the key that opens the front door of the house to let the fuel in. But when that chronic, smoldering fire of inflammation has been burning for a long time, it's like rust and soot begin to clog up the lock on the door. Insulin, the key, still exists. Your body is still making it, but it just can't quite fit or turn in the rusty lock anymore. So the fuel piles up outside in the streets, unused. That is high blood sugar. What curcumin does, in its wisdom, is help to clean the rust from the lock, making the cells receptive once again. The effect is so significant that in a 10-year study, the National Institutes of Health found that people who consistently consumed curcumin had an average 23% reduction in insulin resistance, an effect that can be on par with some oral diabetes medications. I think of a woman I know, Helen. She was living with the difficult complications of diabetes, including a painful nerve tingling in her feet that would keep her awake at night. With the guidance and support of her doctor, she began looking for gentle ways to support her body's healing. She started this simple practice. Every time she made her daily rice, while it was still warm and steamy, she would sprinkle in 1 or 2 pinches of pure turmeric powder and fluff it through. It became her daily ritual of hope. Over a few months, the change was gentle but clear. The nightly burning in her feet began to subside. Her sleep improved, and at her next checkup, her blood sugar control had improved so much that her doctor was able to make a small, welcome adjustment to her medication. The practice is one of beautiful simplicity, but be mindful to use pure turmeric powder, not curry powder, which is a blend of many spices and may contain other additives. For an added benefit, curcumin is best absorbed when eaten with a little black pepper and a healthy fat, so if your meal has a touch of oil or avocado, all the better. As with any powerful plant, we must use it with respect. If you have gallbladder issues or take certain medications, it is always wise to have a conversation with your doctor first. You are inviting a ray of sunshine into your meal, helping to cool the inner fires and restore the golden light of health. We now arrive at what might be the most quietly radical, the most counterintuitive, and perhaps the most profoundly healing secret of all. It is a secret that requires no special ingredient from a store, no complex technique. It asks only for one thing, a virtue our modern world has made scarce: the gift of patience. The secret is this: after you cook your beautiful rice, after it has absorbed the water and become soft and fragrant, you must let it rest. You must let it cool down completely before you eat it. I know how that sounds. It goes against everything we believe about good food. We want our meals piping hot, fresh from the stove, brimming with that immediate, comforting warmth. The idea of letting perfectly good, steaming rice sit and grow cold seems strange, even wasteful. But I invite you to consider a deep truth of nature. Transformation often does not happen in the heat of the moment, but in the cool, quiet period of rest that follows. A muscle grows not during the strain of lifting, but in the recovery afterward. A seed often needs a period of cold dormancy before it will sprout in the spring. And so it is with this humble grain. In this period of rest, a quiet miracle takes place within each grain. When the rice is hot and steamy, its starch is in a very simple, open form. It is very easy for our bodies to digest and absorb it almost instantly as sugar. This is what causes that sharp, sudden spike in blood sugar we have been working so gently to avoid. However, as the rice cools, something magical happens. The very structure of the starch molecules begins to change. They huddle together, recrystallizing into a new, more complex form. This new substance is called resistant starch. The name itself is a beautiful poem. It is a starch that resists digestion in your stomach and small intestine. So if your body doesn't digest it, what happens to it? This is the most beautiful part of the story. This resistant starch travels, undigested, all the way down to your large intestine, and there, it becomes a magnificent feast for the trillions of beneficial bacteria that form your inner ecosystem, your gut microbiome. You are not just feeding yourself, you are tending to the vast, living garden within you. When this inner garden is well fed and thriving, it gives you incredible gifts in return. A stronger immune system, a calmer mind, and most importantly, for our discussion, a much more stable and balanced blood sugar level. You are, in essence, using your food to cultivate your own inner healers. The research on this is truly remarkable. A study from the prestigious Oxford University found that this simple act of cooling and then reheating rice can increase its resistant starch content by a truly significant amount. You might be thinking, but Kai, I don't want to eat cold rice. And you don't have to. The magic of resistant starch, once formed, is that it is stable. It remains even after you gently reheat the rice, so you can enjoy your meal warm while still receiving the full, profound benefit. I think of a gentleman named Donald, a kind man who had been a prisoner in his own body for years due to chronic constipation and irritable bowel syndrome. His life revolved around managing the chaos in his gut. He told me he felt like there was a constant, unpredictable storm inside him. He began this simple practice. He would cook a batch of rice, let it cool completely, and store it in the refrigerator. Each day, he would take out what he needed and gently reheat it. Within a few weeks, the storm began to calm. The daily chaos subsided into a predictable rhythm. He said to me, "For the first time in a decade, I feel like I am the one in charge of my day, not my digestion." By patiently feeding his inner garden, he had created an environment of peace where once there was only turmoil. The method is a practice in mindfulness. After your rice is cooked, simply open the lid and allow it to cool at room temperature for about an hour or two. Then, you can store it in the refrigerator for 1 or 2 days. A gentle word of caution: as with any cooked food, we must be mindful. Do not let it sit out for many hours, especially in warm weather, as this can invite unwanted bacteria to grow. This practice is a lesson from the rice itself. It teaches us that some of the most powerful healing doesn't come from doing more, but from allowing a quiet, patient transformation to occur. ***, we have journeyed far together on this path. We have chosen our grain with intention, honoring its wholeness. We have awakened it with pure water. We have brought it into balance with vinegar and the friendship of oats. We have infused it with turmeric's golden light and transformed it with the gift of patience. We have prepared the perfect physical meal. But now we arrive at the final and most crucial ingredient. This ingredient cannot be bought in a store, it cannot be measured in a spoon, and it cannot be cultivated in the earth. It can only be cultivated within you. The final ingredient is your own presence, your own loving awareness, your own gratitude. You can follow all the other steps perfectly. But if you eat this beautiful meal while standing over the kitchen sink, while scrolling through distressing news on your phone, or while replaying an anxious conversation in your mind, you can negate much of the profound good you have done. Why? Because your state of mind is not separate from your digestion. They are one and the same. How you feel about your food and how you feel while you eat it can directly affect how it impacts your body. Let me share a simple truth about how our bodies work. We have two primary operating modes. The first is fight or flight. Imagine you are walking in the woods and you see a bear. Your body, in its ancient wisdom, doesn't say, "Oh, what a lovely moment to digest lunch." It says, "Survive." Your heart pounds, blood rushes to your arms and legs, your pupils widen, and your entire digestive system shuts down. It closes for business, because all of your energy is needed for immediate survival. In our modern world, the bear may not be a wild animal. The bear can be a stressful email from your boss, an angry driver on the road, a worrying bill in the mail, or even just a loop of anxious thoughts. But your body reacts in the same ancient way. If you eat while that bear is chasing you, your digestive system is closed. But there is another mode: rest and digest. Imagine you are sitting peacefully, watching a gentle rain fall outside your window. Your body knows it is safe. Your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, and your body sends a message to your digestive system. It is time. We are safe. Prepare to receive nourishment. Your mouth produces saliva, rich with enzymes. Your stomach prepares the perfect amount of acid. Your intestines relax, ready to absorb all the goodness from your food. This is the state of healing. And the key that unlocks this state, the key that tells the bear to go away, is your presence. It is your gratitude.